this video, we'll be taking a look at the Imperial Engineer for the Legacy Collection. He was Build-A-Droid number 22, and this is based upon his appearance from the original Battlefront 2 game back in 2005. So if you were around for that era, I think it was November of 2005 if I remember correctly, you would know it was a very big event. I recall watching the trailers leading up to the release of the game, and then like one of the scenes that really sticks out to me is when they advertise, oh, now you can fight in space, and then they show like the 501st shooting it out with a couple battle droids in a hangar, which was pretty interesting. Of course, at that time, Battlefront 1, we were not able to do space battles. It was all just land battles. So that was kind of an innovative thing at the time, and it made the Star Wars universe seem that much bigger. And of course, you have the 501st Journal clone missions for the campaign in that game, which was and still is considered one of the best campaigns that was ever developed by LucasArts. Even to this day, lots of people still play Battlefront 2. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of the very first Battlefront. I like the mechanics of that game a lot more, and I just like the whole atmosphere and feel of it a lot more. And I like the planets a lot more too. I really like the planet of Renvar, and I like the other maps that are featured in the game, like the Yavin Temple, and then or Yavin Arena actually, and then like the Dune Sea and Bespin, of course. So I like a lot of those planets a lot more, and I still play Battlefront 1 pretty regularly. Battlefront 2 I really haven't played seriously since 2011, I think, but still it has a special place in my heart. I recall being very excited for the game to the lead up to the release, and I actually got it on Christmas Day of 2005, and I still occasionally play it every now and then, maybe once a year. But a lot of the action figures that Hasbro produced around that game I still think are some of the best that they've ever made, quite frankly. On this one, it's a pretty simple repaint, I'll say that. He's just a repaint of the Death Star gunner here from the Saga collection. The only thing that's really different about it is that he has a gray suit instead of black like these guys. Other than that, it's the same exact action figure. I will get around to reviewing these guys on the channel at some point. I do have the TBC Death Star gunner reviewed on the channel if you want to check that one out. But let's just go ahead and take a closer look at this guy. So Legacy Collection packaging, this is the first round of it when we had the Stormtrooper package. I wanted to get this and show it on the channel as well, because going forward, when I review any of the Legacy Collection figures that were released under this banner, I would like to place this particular package in the background just to signify that more. So going forward, expect a lot more reviews from the Legacy Collection, which I think is a lot of people's favorite line. It's my personal favorite Star Wars line from Hasbro. I think the Legacy Collection gave us some of the best action figures and best characters that Hasbro ever made. And many of those characters will probably never see the light of day ever again. So it was a very great time to be a Hasbro Star Wars fan. And if you were there for that era, you would know exactly what I mean. So there's the character there. And then that image is just a straight image of a Death Star gunner. A little bit of modifications, I guess. Imperial Engineer, Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is a Build-A-Droid action figure. Description about what they do in the game, actually. Architects of combat, Imperial engineers establish defenses and use various weapons and tools to destroy rebellion emplacements. They employ devastating det packs, remotely detonated explosives to destroy heavy machinery and enemy positions. And they also have that, I'm trying to think, it's basically the same weapon that the Dark Troopers use in the first Battlefront game. It's like the shotgun, or the equivalent to that. So the other action figures advertised, I do have some of them. I have this 41st Coruscant landing platform trooper here. I do have a Jodo cast, but I don't have that particular one. At some point I will get around to Evan, Peel, and Yaddle here. This pack, I've had it in hand so many times before, but then I end up passing up on it. I do have this Salcomai Trooper. I actually got him at Kmart years ago. This Count Dooku I would like to get. And of course now we have the Engineer. So interesting thing about this is this must be a different batch of release for this Imperial Engineer, because I distinctively recall this particular wave here of figures, the Death Star droid, that the one that was in black. But this one's including a part for U-3PO, so that's pretty interesting. And then after seeing some images of that and then thinking back at the time, I do recall that yeah, some of the waves did switch it up every now and then and included other parts instead. I do think I have some of the U-3PO parts. I'd have to go back and check and see what I have. I do have a lot of incomplete build droids, and I do have a lot of completed ones as well. At some point I would love to do a video featuring all the build droids. So, of course, now we still have the Star Wars hyperspace logo there. And that's the rest of it. So let's go ahead and open this up without saying anything further. So years ago, Sith Lord 229 did do a video about how to open these Legacy Collection action figures. So I guess now it's my turn to do that. So you just cut these tabs here. The tape here is probably going to be more sticky than usual since it's deteriorating. And it looks like it's kind of deteriorating. Thankfully, these Legacy Collection figures are pretty easy to open. So you just open those tabs there. And then down here at the bottom, you just cut that open. Pops out no problem. Now cut the bubble out at some other point. So that's the figure there. He does have some tape around him. Put that there. Hopefully his legs aren't warped or anything. Of course, those elastic bands are really deteriorated at this point. It's one thing about buying brand new action figures that been around for a little bit is a lot of the plastic inside begins to deteriorate. Sometimes you gotta wash these action figures down too because they're a little sticky. Oh man, this is really cool. I'm a big fan of this design. So this is really neat. And here's our droid part here. It's just a leg, his right leg. At some point, hopefully I can complete that. I'll put this aside for now. Bring this out. So like I said, he's just pretty much a straight repaint of these guys here. As you can see, same exact things, just a gray suit. He does have a silver E11 instead of the cast in black. So personally, I'm a big fan of this sculpt for the Death Star Gunner, and even compared to the TVC one, I think is the best one we've gotten to date. I think the helmet proportions are right, the entire suit looks good, it has all the right texture details in it, and the proportions are right on it. And the main thing is the head's not that small. On the TVC figure, they made the helmet way too small on him. But this one looks like it's an appropriate size. And it's just a good sculpt overall. And the antenna's not too big either. It's just the right size. And the armor here is removable. He does have the Imperial logo on the side of his arm there, and these guys do not. So that's a nice detail that they did. Nothing on this arm. There is a pocket there though. And these do have a removable helmet. And we do have a clone head underneath. This was during the era when Hasbro was basically doing clone heads for all the Stormtroopers and Clone Troopers. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of it. I personally think it was okay. It does fit on the head securely. Like I said, if you really want to, and this is probably more accurate for the Battlefront 2 Imperial Engineers, as I recall, they don't have any armor on. It's just a plain suit. You can do that instead if you want to. You could treat him like an Imperial technician of some sorts, working on the Death Star. So the head sculpt there, I think that looks pretty good. In fact, that's probably one of the better ones I've seen of the samples between all the other Death Star gunners here. Some of the paint starts wearing off, but this one looks perfect. He does have the gray for the rest of his head there. But yeah, just my initial impression of this, I think the Hasbro did a much more crisper paint on the engineers here compared to the Death Star gunners. These ones are still pretty good as well, but there are some that I've seen where the paint might be a little bit off, and they do have the red eyes as well. But it looks like it's perfectly, yeah, this guy doesn't have red eyes. And the blue and the red here for the antenna is much more vibrant and prevalent compared to these ones. Articulation, he does have a ball joint at the neck there, which does have a pretty good range of motion, even with the helmet on. Although his helmet is loose enough where you probably want to take the helmet off first before articulating his head. Just pose it and then put it on. He does have a hinge at the shoulder, which has a really good range of motion. Does have swivel elbows, which I know a lot of people aren't fans of, but I think it's okay for this guy. He does have swivel wrists or forearms, yeah. And the swivel waist, and then swivel hips, and then hinge knees, and nothing in the ankles. Which is perfectly fine with no ankle articulation. He stands pretty good on his own. I've never had any problems with these guys. And it looks like for the weapons and accessories, it just comes with the E11 here, with the elastic band there. I'll just leave that in there for now. But nothing really special about this other than the paint. It's all in silver. Just something unique about him. It does have a holster here where you can put it in. I'll show what that's like with these guys here. So the holster, it's actually a cross draw. Let's see here. Sometimes it can be kind of tricky to get these in. Yeah. It's like that. And it specifically has to go in that way. So I guess these guys are actually left-handed. So that's interesting. Yeah, you can pretty much get him in every pose that you really would want him in anyway. See what this droid part is like here. I really miss this Build a Droid line as well. It was a fun way to try and collect all the waves. Yep, that's a droid leg there. Until you complete it, there's really not a whole lot you can do with it. But yeah, I'm glad after all these years to finally add this guy in the collection. I've actually really wanted him since 2009, 2010, and I just never got around to it. And a lot of it is because there's nothing really new about it. I've already had the Death Star gunners and spend money for a repaint. It's just one of those things where if I found a good deal for him at some point, I would go ahead and get him, which I did. I spent less than $20 for this even. So he's still fairly affordable. So if you want these guys, it's certainly in the realm of possibility. I know a lot of the Legacy Collection action figures have gotten really expensive over the years. This is one that seems to stay in the more affordable range. Well, I guess he doesn't stand as well as I hoped. Let's see here. We'll do that. Do one other thing instead. Have him at like a parade rest. Let's hope he stays there. But anyways, just from my impression, would I recommend this guy for your collection? I totally would, whether it's the Death Star Gunner or the Imperial Engineer, or I recommend them both. It's a solid action figure, and if you're looking for Death Star Gunners for your collection, this is the one I would recommend over the TVC figure. At some point I might do a detailed video about that as to why I prefer this one over that one. There is one from the Power of the Force days as well, but you know, if you know anything about Power of the Force, you know that those action figures are kind of on the beefy side and look kind of ridiculous at some angles, so I would say this is the one to get. Even the Death Star Gunners here are fairly affordable still, so if you really want for your collection, it's certainly in the realm of possibility to be able to get them. I'm going to treat this Imperial Engineer as kind of like a, almost like a commander, I guess, since he has the unique suit about him. And I'm glad to finally add him to the Imperial shelf. But anyways, I think that concludes this review. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. Always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. And as always, thanks for watching.